How to manage your money like the rich. After having worked with BCG partners and top CXOs and CEOs in this country, I managed their wealth. We tried to actually together increase their revenue. I learned few fundamental skills in terms of wealth management and in terms of the discipline that it requires for those top partners and top CXOs in terms of managing their wealth. I have worked with them up close and I have noticed the discipline that they have in terms of how they manage their money. Truth be told, it's a very personal journey for me as well, because wealth is a function of the kind of salary you draw and also the kind of expenses you have. In both parts of the equation, I have learned from two people who have left a very important impression on me. Talking about salary, my father is actually a government officer, and he's going to retire in his July this year. And throughout his life, he has just had two jobs. In both of them, he spent half of his working life. And I have seen him being salaried, and I have seen him earning really substantial amount in that decent government job. But at the same time, I think my husband, with whom I dated for 6 years and then we married, left a very important impression on me in terms of making sure that I have multiple sources of income and not just one source of income. I think he was always trying to make sure that I was always financially independent and I was mentally well as well. And many a times we are just stuck with bad job because we have to pay our rent, we have to take care of our families. And because he come from a family where his mother has been an entrepreneur, he always wanted to nurture the entrepreneur in me. So largely, I think my husband and then my partner left a very important impression on me in terms of diversifying my salary and not just putting all my eggs in one basket. On the other hand, when it comes to expenses, my father left a very important impression on me. He, for a very long period of time, would manage this really thick notebook I would say register, where he would write how much salary he got in that month and what were his expenses, and he's been diligent about it since so many years. And that level of frugality and that emotion of minimalism has been bestowed upon me from my father. So I would say it's a very personal journey, a journey that I have seen by working with the top CXOs of this country, and a journey that I have walked myself. For example, my first starting salary was actually 25,000 per month, and truth be told, without working in consulting throughout the last 10 years, I have had a hockey stick in terms of the wealth that I have. I would never call myself rich. I think rich is a mindset, while being wealthy is another mindset. And I have always wanted to become more wealthy than more richer rather. And people say that rich people have more money and wealthy people have more time, and I've always wanted to be in the latter bucket, to have things that can make myself, my materialistic small desires satisfied, but at the same time I would want to have time in my hand. With that, let's directly jump into the two equations that I described in this entire video, which is around the salary or the income that you draw and the kind of expenses you have. Like I said, the wealthy never ever just put all their eggs in one basket. They are mostly, have you ever seen a wealthy man have just doing one job? They would be investors, they would be running their own businesses. Why do I say so, and not just one line of business? So for example, currently, if I were to be extremely transparent, my three sources of income, first is of course now Global Governance Initiative, and then I have my money pumped in the equity market. I recently actually sold my stocks, and I will walk you through that answer as well. Why did I do so? And then third, I recently became an investor in Admify, which is actually empowering females across the globe so that they could access formal MBA education. I did not have the kind of role models I wanted to or I yearned for when I was applying for my formal MBA education. So shall you be interested? The link of admify.in is going to be in the description box as well. So that's my third source of income, where I'm an investor and I'm actively participating to contribute to the cause as well. And if I were to share how do I really manage my income, then I would say that 20%, right? I'm legitimately sharing the percentage breakup of how where all my wealth is managed. I'm not calling myself rich. I would always be comfortable calling myself wealthy enough to make sure my ends are met, not just in the short term but in the medium to long term as well. And that's the approach that I have seen wealthy taking, as well as I've worked in really close quarters with few of the really top leaders both in business and society. So 20% of the money that I have in my bank account is always cash. You may ask me, Shatakshi, why do you keep that amount in bank? I think life is very unprecedented. The world is very unprecedented. No one knows what kind of expenses you would have to bear for which you are not ready. So I do not want to loan it out from someone, even though I have the means to achieve those unknown ends, right? So 20% is always cash for me. Then I would say a very large bucket, 50% of my entire income was actually in the market, which I would say more than half that I recently sold. You cannot become rich, and most of the wealthy people and the rich people do not actually just become rich by just having one source of income. And even if they have one source of income, then they would just put 50% of that in the stock market, right? And I have always maintained the best way to actually put your money is in the index fund. If you do not know what index funds are, I'm happy to make a separate video about it, rather than just being stressed about what kind of stocks do I need to put my money in. And the reason why I recently sold my stocks is I am actually of a firm belief that the markets are at an all-time high. There is a Warren Buffett indicator, which is basically a function of total market capitalization of Indian stock market divided by the total GDP. And if you divide 1.36 trillion divided by 1.26 trillion, you will almost realize that the market is overvalued at more than 100%. So there is a massive scope of correction that is going to witness, right? As someone who has always put my money in largely index funds before, I do not think I wanted to be greedy so that I could earn more money up to so that the market is growing up to two places up till the decimal. And that's what at least the people who have followed Warren Buffett's school of thought in terms of investing is, when everyone else is greedy, become fearful. I think most of the people are greedy in the market right now, and that's when you get to know it is time to exit the market. So I'm holding on to my cash right now, and I'm waiting the markets would correct themselves and that's when I would still again pump in my money. But I'm holding on to a lot of I would say cash percentage in terms of my portfolio. That brings me towards the third bucket, where the wealthy actually put their money. I would say real estate. So I think real estate, you may question, but Shatakshi, real estate may not be growing at the same rate as a stock market equity would, right? You may be right, but a lot of time it is about diversification of the entire portfolio. What if the stock markets crash, right? Would I not want to grow, or would I want to put all my eggs in one basket? So the wealth management for the rich or for the wealthy is actually earning from a lot of sources and managing that money, that is incoming money, at a lot of sources. So I would say 20% of the wealth of the rich is actually in the real estate. It may be a slow growth, but it makes sure that you are diversifying your risks, which actually leaves me with the last 10%, which is where my expenses will sit. Had I been in India, then of course my percentage expenses would have been substantially lower, because I would have been at my in-laws or to my parents' house, and the food cost would have been cheaper as well. But because I'm here in US, the rent cost in INR would sit somewhere around 10%. So that's largely the kind of sources of income I have. And like I said, that's the mindset you need to have multiple sources of income. I have 3, and manage that wealth by not just putting all your eggs in one basket. So that's point number 1. Watch till the end, because I want to actually tell you and teach you that wealth management by the rich is not just a function of income. It is very much a function of how do you spend your money as well. And which brings me towards the second point. The second point is about the expenses. That's the second bucket you have. What we really need to understand and know is that I maintain my Excel, right? Every month I have the income that hit my bank account, what happened with that money, and the kind of expenses we have. And how does that really help? How does that discipline help? Remember the kind of thick register that my father would maintain, and I started to maintain that as well. I really hope and I really wish I should have started early in my 20s. My parents got married when I think they were 22 or 23, and that's when my father started maintaining that register. I started that discipline when I was 29. If you're watching this video, and even if you're in your mid 30s, it's fine. There is no time there is no delay to that, but if you're in your 20s, you should definitely do that. How does that help? For example, recently in the last month, my husband and I went for 2 dinner dates, and there was this particular day where we really did not want to cook, and we both were thinking, hey, this is the holiday season, we should be going out. And I saw my Excel, and I knew that if we do not do it in a disciplined manner, then soon we would realize that these small dinner dates may actually increase our expense to probably 11%. But you could just say that, Shatakshi, that's fine, at times you need to live your life. I kind of disagree to that. If you're fine moving that number from 10% to 11% 1 month, you will not even realize how that number will become 11% to 12% to 13%. So eventually we did not go for a restaurant date that day, and that meant that we just moved our lazy asses and we cooked whatever easy meal that we could cook. And that kind of mindset is really very important when you want to eventually become wealthy. That Excel is very important. Every time I'm making an expense, I'm not waiting for the end of the month. For example, we are going to be going to New York for Christmas, and I did not wait when I booked the bus ticket to be in New York or at the end of the month. The moment I purchased that bus ticket, I actually entered it in my expense account, because I have an entire bucket of vacation as well. And that's when I realized that this is where I need to lower down my rental cost in New York, so that eventually we are not over exceeding on that 10%. That's the kind of mindset you need. You can be earning more than double or quarter, you could be a millionaire, but if you're not making sure that you're not disciplined about these things, then eventually you would realize that there will not be a few years when you will not have the kind of wealth that you had earned. Lastly, I would just make sure that you know about this thing of health insurance. I have always been very fixated and anal on it. You could be the richest man on this earth, and when a health crisis hits you, you would be shocked and surprised how much you would end up paying to save your loved ones or save your own self. And I've always maintained the best time to buy a health insurance is today. So if you have not purchased one, please do, because you may not be able to realize the value of it. And that's why I think I've learned this myself. When I was earning 25,000 per month, that was my first starting salary, I did not value health insurance then, because I always knew even if I have an expense of 20,000 per month, I can manage it. But what really happens is, when you start earning a lot, you do not want 40% of your expense or 50% of your expense to go in healthcare, right? You want to save that money. And if you start investing in health insurance really early on, then the right time is actually in your early 20s, because the premium per year will be really, really less. You do not want to pay a high premium. For example, my father, for example, like I said, is in a government job right now, and throughout his journey, and he's going to turn 60, the government has taken care of his health expenses. But now that he's turning 60 and he's going to be retiring, we are planning to actually buy a health insurance for him. I know you would say that, Shatakshi, you're preaching health insurance and your father didn't have one. I think it's very hard to convince my father than to convince you folks. But now we are purchasing a health insurance, and the premium that we will have to pay will be extremely high, right? Because of his age. And similarly for my mother, and because of the lifestyle diseases that you could catch, such as diabetes, etc. That's largely I have to discuss in this video. Please click this video a heart if you like my content. Feel free to subscribe and click on the notification button, because I intend to put out plethora of such content, taking out a leaf from my book from BCG, running a venture at Global Governance Initiative as well. Please take care and stay safe. Bye. Subscribe right now so that you get notified every time, every day, whenever I'm putting up my videos on career advancement, personal finance, and lots of productivity hacks. Subscribe right now so that you get notified every time, every day, whenever I'm putting up my videos on career advancement, personal finance, and lots of productivity hacks.